just a recap of what we were supposed to present today was the deployment of the FDP in Tangaza. So I'm going to cover the aspects of how we went about it. So that is the documentation process, which this is a brief documentation of it. This is just to outline how we went about it, and also encouraging feedback from the teams on how to, what things we need to check, that we need to implement as we manage our deployment. So the aim is, of course, to deploy an FTP for visibility and accessibility, for usability of research and institution data. This also aligns with the teams that will need to have the FTP installation in Kenya. So I'm going to go through the setup of the VM, the FTP deployment, the challenges that we experienced, and also requesting for feedback and recommendation the deployment. Now, I'm going to skim through very fast. Some of these things are not necessary to talk about for too long. So that is the setup of the VM. We chose to use Ubuntu 24.0. And of course, it's our preferred operating system for virtual machines. Yeah, and the technical specifications we went for was at least an 8 GB RAM with 2 sockets and 4 cores. So that is 8 virtual CPUs, and also at least 60 GB storage. Now, coming to the FTP deployment, we, of course, are going to be using Docker containers and setting up a reverse proxy. I think if we remember from Samson's presentation, we had that diagram about the structure of the FTP from the reverse proxy to reverse proxy to the FTP client, FTP point, and then triple standard MongoDB. So we added our containers. Of course, we got this from the GitHub repository, and then we initialized the containers. Some of these on our documentation, some of these things have changed. Like we are not serving under port 8081. We are serving it at port 80. So just a few things to change here and there. Also, once we deployed it and we initialized Docker, we were able to access the FTP locally. Now, the next step was going now to production. This is where now we set up the reverse proxy, that is Nginx, and also having a domain, a subdomain, an extension of our domain to host the application. So you can see here from the file configurations of the Docker Compose. Again, just going back to the ports, this changed. It's no longer 8081, it's port 80, just due to accessing it locally. So there are a few configurations to be done there. So as I stated on our training, our FTP is meant to be served behind a reverse proxy, so hence Nginx. And following this tutorial, we set up the Nginx folder and the files required. Again, just going back to the tutorial that we had from Samson on the production deployment. So we just followed concisely the documentation here. Now you'll see some of these things are familiar. Okay. Yeah, and then so now going back to the challenges. So the third point was the challenges that we experienced. I remember I had a challenge setting up the reverse proxy, but this was resolved later on. I did a few tweaks and I was able to go through. So yeah, and the ability also to understand the Docker logs. I think that is something we're still familiarizing with, understanding where we can pick up the errors when you check on the Docker logs. So far, I'll ask for recommendation on feedback. I can perhaps show the backend of the system, just for anyone who wants to understand how we set it up on our end. Feedback, recommendations. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Wait, was I sharing my screen?
You did.
Hello?
You did
Yes,
for a
yes.
while, and yeah,
Oh,
you
okay.
did all through it.
Okay. Any, I think, oh, sorry. I think then I didn't hear about the feedback and recommendations. I was asking for feedback and recommendation. All right. I think that's
Hello,
pretty much.
Samson. Are you able to make some comments?
No, I like the presentation, how you presented all the components. What are the challenges that you are facing, or any if you followed the reverse you said you've successfully resolved the reverse proxy issue.
Yeah.
Is there any issue that's remaining, or what are you struggling with?
Not really. So I think so far the only issue I had was the setting up of the reverse proxy. Not entirely sure if it is an error on my end because when I was setting it up, when I start up Docker, I realized we had an issue with the proxy pass. So some of our containers is serve. There's something about these and the FTP client not having the _1 on our end. So I kept going over and over again trying to understand why it was not starting up. And also going back to the ports because the issue was I'd set up again frequency from my documentation. I'd set up port 8081, but then it was not. I think it was not the application was not being served correctly, and Nginx was not able to get where the where the local installation, the port that it was using. So I had to go back default to port 8080. I mean port 80. But so far so good. Everything is okay.
Maybe a question. How is Tangaza housing this installation? Is it a separate entity, or we can go to the website of Tangaza and then click in and find it?
So far so good. We just have the URL, which is
URL.
fdp.tangaza.ac.ke. However, on recommendation, I think we can put it up on the Tangaza website for everyone to access. And then as the teams who are going to be developing the catalogs and the data sets, we can give them logins and be able to populate the metadata on the FDP.
So you have the password, the logins.
Correct.
Okay.